right downtown. Big D, Dallas, Texas. A beautiful city, especially during basketball season. Notice I didn't say football season, by the way. And there you see American Airlines Center, the plaza. Beautiful view right there. They got a hell of a team this year, too. Lots to talk about in regards to these Dallas Mavericks. It's a matchup of two of the best young players in the NBA. 21-year-old Luka Doncic have the Mavericks primed for their first playoff appearance in 4 years. Tonight, he will take on Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. Denver is chasing the Clippers for the number 2 seed out west. SportsCenter with Stephen A. starts right now.
Welcome to SportsCenter with Stephen A. Smith. Presented by Mountain Dew.
The impact of the coronavirus is being felt in the NBA. Today, the Golden State Warriors announced that they will play their home game tomorrow night against the Brooklyn Nets without fans in attendance. This after the San Francisco Health Office prohibited groups of 1,000 or more from assembling. Welcome to SportsCenter. I'm Stephen A. Smith. I'm here with yours truly, Brian Windhorst. He's sitting right next to me. Lots of stuff to get into. The league was on the phone all day today, talking to its owners, Commissioner Adam Silver, and of course, the 30 owners or so. What can you tell us about what transpired today?
Yeah, there's really kind of two things going on right now, Stephen A. One is they've got to have immediate planning for how they're going to handle the next few days, because obviously we're seeing all of these fans taken out of arenas. Fans are going to be taken out of NBA arenas very soon, all across the board. If they don't make the decision is going to get made for them. They're aware of that. The second thing is long-term planning. Taking a look at arena schedules, talking with team officials, and seeing what the feasibility is of potentially delaying the season, leaving that open as an option that they research.
Let's bring in our ultimate insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA insider. Talk to us. You've been working the phones all day. You've been all over this story, Woj. Talk to us about what you've learned. You just tweeted something a few minutes ago.
That's right, Stephen, Brian. The greater consensus right now among NBA teams is to continue playing the season, but without fans in arenas. The league is going to make a decision by Thursday, by tomorrow, on next steps. But there's a push in this league right now to continue the season without fans in the arena. Another consideration on that owner's call with the league today, I'm told, was the idea of taking a hiatus, stepping back from the season, postponing games, potentially canceling regular season games. But right now, there's a greater push, a much greater push, I'm told, with the league in continuing to play games, but do it without fans in the arena. And one thing that I know the league office, certainly teams all want, they don't want lost games, and they want to try to keep these games on television.
I know that you talked about there's a stronger push to just not have fans in there, Woj, but how strong, if you can tell us at all, is the push, at least by some of the owners, to actually postpone or cancel some of these games?
Well, I think it's everyone's preference to keep playing, but I think it's been part of the conversation. They have talked about everything from moving games from one arena in a city to the away arena based on the schedule of a night's games, even looking at games at neutral sites, maybe even in non-NBA cities. But right now, the push is to continue playing games with the current schedule we have in arenas that are going to be empty, following the lead of what the NCAA did with the college basketball tournaments today, which is to play them for the foreseeable future in empty arenas. But the league office, Adam Silver ultimately is going to decide that, I'm told, by tomorrow. They have to get moving in a direction here. And certainly the consensus, again, that I'm told, along with Zach Lowe, is to continue playing the games without fans.
Wendy, let's get back to you here. What do you think ultimately will happen here? Because even though there are no cases of NBA players having contracted the virus, in the same breath, there's got to be obviously a very palpable fear of that. What do you think leads to them ultimately making this decision and just sticking with one decision over the other?
If Woj says that the owner's consensus is to keep playing, he's right. Woj is always right. I'm just going to tell you, I'm looking at what happened in China and I'm looking at what happened in Italy. And in both those cases, they tried to continue those leagues, especially in Italy, without fans in the soccer league, and it just did not work. Mm-hmm. And now today we have a reported case of a Juventus player, one of the most powerful, biggest teams in Italy, coming down with the coronavirus. I think that eventually you're going to see the leagues have to suspend. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have to suspend play from a just player health standpoint and from a financial standpoint, because one of the things that's going to happen here, that every game you play without fans, it's millions and millions of dollars. And in the playoffs, where ticket revenue is a vital part of the NBA's revenue pie, it's going to be probably between $100 and $200 million lost if they play playoff games without it. And not that revenue would lead here, right, but it's going to be a factor.
Woj, Adam Silver is the commissioner of the National Basketball Association. Do you anticipate him making this call or ultimately putting it to a vote? I know he had conversations with league owners, but is this going to simply come down to the commissioner making a call, or is he going to look for the owners to vote on it? What can you tell us about that?
I think Stephen, somewhere in between that with Adam Silver. I don't know that there's a specific vote here, but part of what he wanted to do today was to hear his owners out in a group setting. There's been a lot of one-off conversation certainly recently, but in the end, this is a commissioner's decision, and he's got to make it in partnership, not just with the other owners. They met with the Players Association today, and in that meeting, they told the Players Association their goal was to try to keep, again, playing the games without fans, not having to cancel games. And then, of course, television, arenas, Brian mentioned that, all the other factors. There's a lot of constituents here when you're making this decision, but this is ultimately at the feet of the commissioner.
Woj and Wendy, they'll be with us throughout the show. Don't go anywhere. Here's more reaction from around the NBA today, starting with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Obviously, this is the NBA, and we're paid to play games. Now having fans is going to be tough, because everybody that play basketball, they play for the fans. They play for, energy, the atmosphere. But at the end of the day, we got to think about, our health and safety, not just the players, the fans.
Because at the end of the day, professional basketball players, so we got to play in an empty arena. It wouldn't be fun, but, it'd be competitive.
You see people dying, more and more people are, getting affected by the virus, so, that's real for me. People are losing their lives, so that's when it became real for me.
Let's bring in former Memphis Grizzlies head coach, as well as the New York Knicks former head coach, David Fizdale. Coach, you first learned of the impact the coronavirus was having on the NBA. What were your thoughts, sir?
I'm not hearing you, Stephen A.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
You might have to come back to me. I'm not hearing anything.
All right, we'll get back to you. We're having some technical difficulties. We'll definitely get back to y'all in a few minutes. Coming up, we'll get you set for the Nuggets and Mavs on ESPN. Doris Burke standing by with reaction from Dallas over the coronavirus concerns and inside the must-see matchups in tonight's showdown. Plus, the NBA MVP race heats up. Has LeBron taken the lead over Giannis to win the award? We'll dissect the deciding factors. Next, don't touch that dial. More to come.
Stephen A. Smith is presented by Mountain Dew. Do the do.
Dallas Mavericks against the Denver Nuggets tonight. As you see, hand sanitizers are being handed out to fans in the arena. Not just soap, not just going to the bathroom. Hand sanitizer being given out to everybody. It's not a bad idea, actually, not by a long shot. Let's bring in former Memphis Grizzlies and New York Knicks head coach David Fizdale. When you first learned of the virus and the impact that it was having on the NBA, coach, what went through your mind?
Wow, that this is really happening during my lifetime, and just really can't believe that we're at a place now that we have to cancel large sporting events, big money-making sporting events, big money-making concerts, things like that. The thought that those things are now either being played without a crowd or being canceled is pretty overwhelming.
As a coach in the National Basketball Association, do you agree with the league's decision to make sure that they're not having any fans? At least the Golden State Warriors have already made the decision in San Francisco, obviously, that they're not going to have fans at their game because of the health organization and the decisions that they made. What are your thoughts about that?
I do agree with it, Stephen A. And this is why it's bigger than basketball right now. You're talking about a pandemic. You're talking about something that can easily be spread. We see how fast this stuff has ran through other countries. We can't be arrogant enough to think that we're immune to that. We have as many, if not the most, large gatherings than any other country in the world. And so for us to be diligent and cautious, I think, is the right approach. We can't risk our fans' health, and we also cannot risk our players and our staffers' health.
Coach, as an assistant in Miami, you used to coach LeBron James. You're very close with him. We all know this. His original position was he's not playing if it's not going to be in front of the fans. He backtracked on that considerably, obviously, as he's learned more about this situation. As a coach, what would you tell players at this particular moment in time in regards to what's transpiring before us?
Well, one, you want to educate them on how to stay healthy, right? Just the basics, I think, is don't assume that players know how to keep themselves healthy in scenarios like this. That would be the first thing. But the second thing would be, especially if I'm a team contending for the playoffs or contending for home court or any of that, is keeping the mission in mind and how important every game is, regardless of the fact if fans are there watching or not watching. You still have a body of work that you've put together over the course of the season to put you in this position. You can't let a situation like this right now knock you out of your focus, and now all of a sudden you start losing games because of the conditions.
Coach, always appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. You take care of yourself. See you soon.
Absolutely, Steve.
Let's transition to 14-year NBA veteran Matt Barnes. You're sitting right here next to me. You've been a part of this league for a very, very long time. How scared are you that ultimately games are going to end up being missed, canceled along those lines?
I think I would prefer the NBA to kind of take a step back and go ahead and cancel games for a week or two and just do as much research as we possibly can. Let's get studies on how many healthy 18 to 35-year-olds have caught this, and if so, what happened? How many children have caught this? I understand all these other leagues that have canceled things. I get it, I respect it, but the NBA moves the needle. What we do moves the needle. We set culture, we set trends. So I would like to get as much information about this disease as possible and just take a step back. Like I said, I don't think the game is meant to be played without fans. I think the game will suffer. The players are saying that it's not going to be the same. The atmosphere, the energy, if you've ever played, you understand what the arena atmosphere is like. So without fans, I think the play is going to, tremendously suffer. But let's also think about the flu sweeps through every professional locker room every single year. The flu sweeps through my children's school every single year. People get sick, we get our medicines, we get healthy, we hydrate, and we feel better. This, like I said, I just think there's not enough information out there yet for us to. I understand we want to be, ahead of it. We want to be progressive instead of reactive. But let's just take a step back and kind of see where we're at with things and then move forward from there. But I don't think the game is meant to be played without fans.
Hold your thought right there. We've got to transition to Dallas, where our very own Doris Burke is. She'll be on a call for the game tonight between the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. You just spoke to both head coaches today. Can you give me the feel, the vibe of where their head is and what they're going through right now, Doris?
Yeah, and I reached out to a couple of players as well, Stephen A., and basically the response has been, we really don't know what to think. We are trying to, like the rest of the country, educate ourselves in real time. You hear what Matt said. It will be absolutely bizarre to think of an arena without family and friends and obviously the fans. Mike Malone told us earlier today that basically at shoot-around this morning, he looked at his guys and said, look around the arena because there's a distinct possibility this would be the atmosphere within which we are playing. So there's uncertainty, there's education that's ongoing, and sort of a wait-and-see attitude amongst coaches and players, Stephen A.
Let's transition to the game because there is a game that's taking place tonight, Doris. It's between the Denver Nuggets, who are the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, and obviously the Dallas Mavericks. When you look at this matchup right here, which isn't getting the attention it deserves as far as I'm concerned, because both of these teams have been impressive, what chances do you give either of them to come out of the West, seeing what you've seen from them the multitude of times you've watched them this year?
I really enjoy watching both teams. I think they are aesthetically pleasing basketball teams, but I feel like there's more growth and development in the playoffs to happen. I still believe that the teams, the Lakers and the Clippers, are a tier above. And it's interesting talking to the coaches. You know, Nikola Jokic, for a straight month with so many injuries, was carrying this team. He's hit a little bit of a lull here. And when we talked to Rick Carlisle before the game, he said, listen, that guy might be shooting 32%, but he put 2 killers on us in the matchup, so we're going to guard him like we need to guard him. Should be a lot of fun. I saw Luka get hit on that thumb that's been bothering him last night against San Antonio. I'm curious to see how he is handling the basketball tonight, Stephen A.
Doris, always appreciate the great work. Thank you so much. Looking forward to listening to you during the game. You take care.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, as the legend of Luka continues to grow. I'm sorry, Jamal Murray. I didn't know he was sitting there shooting jump shots. There's a conversation that took place. It was earlier today. And of course, oh no, you didn't. We can't forget about that. Oh no, you didn't. I don't know if you've seen that, Matt Barnes. It's kind of smooth. Check it out. It's coming up next. Smith, live from the Seaport District at Pier 17. Brought to you by Chase. Our next NBA Saturday primetime game sees Steph Curry and the Warriors starting a 5-game Eastern Conference road trip against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. Our coverage tips with The Jump at 8 Eastern on ABC and the ESPN app.
I don't think that they have the pieces to actually compete in the Western Conference.
Your best players have got to be better.
That's why the Nuggets get lost in the shuffle.
Why does this team thrive when everybody else counts them out?
Here it goes. Got it. Denver has won.
We have a lot of guys that are hungry and desperate and willing to do whatever it takes to have success.
There has been a lack of respect for what they have achieved.
I work so much to get here. Hopefully I'm going to win a ring one day.
While the Lakers and Clippers steal most of the headlines, don't sleep on the Nuggets in the Western Conference. Their success starts with Nikola Jokic, who's one of 2 players averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists this season, along with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Jokic has formed quite the dynamic duo with Mr. Jamal Murray, who's averaging nearly 19 points per game. The pair have assisted to each other 218 times this season. That's the most by any pair of teammates in the NBA, just ahead of LeBron and Anthony Davis. By the way, the Nuggets have won 58% of their road games, on pace to be their best win percentage in a season in franchise history. Earlier today, I talked with one of their star players. You heard me mention his name earlier, Jamal Murray. Listen in. Before we get into basketball talk on the court, let's make sure I get your perspective on this. Your thoughts about the coronavirus, everything that you're hearing around the league, and potential fears that this season might be compromised in any way. What are your thoughts about it?
It's very unfortunate. I know if there was no fans, it would be very hard for the players to be playing in that kind of environment. I think just plays change. The road trips are different. Home games are different. I think we would just be playing just for the sake of the business, and it's going to be very difficult. It's a tough situation.
Put in perspective for the viewers out there what it would be like, or what you can imagine it being like if you had to play at an arena without the fans in attendance, how that would affect you guys play, if at all in any way.
It would affect us entirely. Like I said, if somebody made a play, made a highlight, it would be just people in the gym celebrating. I think we'd be on the bench saying, D what, defense. It'd just be a whole different environment. So it would be very tough, like I said, and hopefully it doesn't have to come to that, but it's unfortunate.
Let's get into you specifically, because I happen to believe that you're one of the young stars in the game. You can ball. This year, you're up in points, obviously field goal percentage, shooting, free throws, everything. Talk to me about where you feel your game is right now.
I just feel like it gets so much better. Never satisfied. I've played decent up to this part. I feel like I can do a lot better, and especially with this playoffs coming in, just my usage rate should go up and run a whole lot of two-man game, pick a roll, especially with me and big fella down there. So it's gonna be a lot of fun just to play out of that.
From the number 2 seed to the number 7 seed, it's like 4 or 5 games that separates all those teams. But your squad, the Denver Nuggets, have been a top 3 seed since mid-December. You haven't budged from that position, which speaks to the level of consistency you guys have enjoyed. To me, that warrants respect. You may not care, but do you guys feel that you have received the respect that you deserve?
Oh, yeah, for sure. From other teams, like I said, they started game plan for us. I got big men, I got swing men on me, I got the 3-4. They never put the point guard on me no more. They started double joker. I feel like teams are starting to pay more attention and really start the game plan for us. So like I said, we're not surprising teams no more. We got a target on our back. And for us to stay that consistent, stay within the 2-3 seed the whole time, like you said, it speaks a lot of volume to what we can do and our capabilities. So it's going to be a lot of fun, especially this postseason. We got to finish up strong. We got a tough schedule. But I feel like we're built for that.
Very last question. Y'all can win the championship this year?
Yes, sir.
Works for me. Appreciate you, my man. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to watching you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With the coronavirus concerns rapidly impacting the sports landscape, new reactions around the NBA on the latest steps the league is taking.
To SportsCenter with Stephen A. Smith. Presented by Mountain Dew.
Welcome back to SportsCenter with Stephen A. Smith. Brian Windhorst is right next to me. Adrian Wojnarowski, our ultimate NBA insider. He'll be with us shortly. Brian Windhorst, let's get right back to it. So you've heard what everybody has to say. Just remind our audience of how serious and dire this situation appears to be in the eyes of the NBA right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest threat the NBA has faced from a health standpoint, maybe ever. Today, just today as an example, they had a conference call with owners. I was talking to people in the league. They don't remember this ever happening. Owners meet 3 times a year as scheduled. It's hard to get billionaires on the phone. The fact that they had to do that, just that alone, just that fact alone tells you how out of character and off the grid that this situation is. But I'm going to just say that I know that a lot of people are really upset, and I know there's a lot of people that are panicking and things like that. Let's look to what's happened elsewhere in the world. In China, they shut their CBA, their Chinese Basketball Association, down at the end of January. They have taken 2 months to deal with this crisis. They wanted everybody to remain indoors, to quarantine. Their cases have come down, flattened out, life is returning to normal, and they are now calling players back and intending to begin basketball again in the next couple of weeks. This is obviously going to affect a lot of people. It's going to affect a lot of people who have tickets who want to go to games. But ultimately, they're going to take the steps that they were shown, and we're going to end up being okay. We just have to get through it.
Woj, when you hear what Wendy just said, it calls for the potential of a delay in the ending of the season as possibly a worst-case scenario. How receptive is the league to that, in your estimation, considering the fact that there was an owner just weeks ago who talked about how the league should start in December and end after June? What do you make of that, Woj?
Well, Atlanta's president, Steve Koonin, he's talked about that idea for years and brought it up again at the Sloan Conference. There hasn't been support for it, but what you're hearing now and what needs to happen is there's going to have to be a lot of cooperation around the league right now. If games do get lost with how to salvage this season, this is a year where the league's going to lose a lot of money. Going back to Daryl Morey's comments, what that caused the league with their relationship with China, and then now the money that's going to be lost here. And one group that really hasn't been a big part of this conversation that's got a call with the league tomorrow, the league's general managers, their presidents, the people who deal every day with the players, and I think they're going to have to be involved in this. They know more about this league day to day and how it operates and how competitively some changes in the rest of the season might play out. They know that better than their owners do. So there's a lot of people who still have to be a part of this conversation because this is uncharted territory for the league, and there's going to be more difficult decisions that have to be made.
Wendy, we've heard on many occasions the commissioner and league officials allude to the partnership that exists between them and the players. How much, if any, input at all will the players have in decisions that are being made? And if not them, whom?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is happening in the league right now is there is a strong feeling of cooperation between the commissioner's office and the players. There is a real, equity that exists there between those two sides. And so I really believe that they'll work together on this. They will rely on their crisis situation and get through it and align. But I think the players, as LeBron showed over the weekend, they weren't really even thinking about this. Matt Barnes was saying earlier today, he went to a birthday party for Draymond Green over the weekend. The word coronavirus was not mentioned one time. Yet here we are just a few days away from having radical changes to the league. So I think the players are going to rely on the leadership of the league, which is why the league's got to spend some time to get it right.
I know this much. I'm relying on you and Woj. Way to bring it, y'all. Really appreciate it. In Oklahoma City, Donovan Mitchell, you see him right there, star for the Utah Jazz, getting set to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. As it currently stands right now, Utah and OKC would meet in the first round of the playoffs. And obviously that brings me to my next guest, Royce Young, covering the Oklahoma City Thunder for us. He joins us right now. You were just at head coach Billy Donovan's pregame news conference. What did he say about the coronavirus and the impact that it's having on his team?
Stephen A., he acknowledged how everybody's pretty nervous about this situation and just the bizarre fact of the scene and how it was set up pregame with reporters backed away 10 feet from a podium. Quinn Snyder, it was the same thing. And if you just look around the arena, Stephen A., and just the way that this is kind of unfolding, it's a weird situation. Steven Adams had to alter his pregame routine. Instead of sitting in the locker room like he normally would, he had to come into a media room, sit down at a podium. The first thing he did is he looked over at the Thunder's PR guy and said, "Has this been wiped down?" And he said it with all sincerity, and he was told, yes, it has been very thoroughly. But, one of the things as you look around this arena is just the inability to really contain this with fans in it. I just talked to a ball boy that was rebounding for Donovan Mitchell and Danilo Gallinari, and I asked him, did they tell you to do anything with the basketballs? Were you supposed to wash your hands or sanitize the ball? And he was like, no, I didn't have to do anything. If you look out in the crowd, you see fans throwing a little soft basketball, one by one, going all around, taking turns, just touching the same ball. You see players sitting off to the side in the same seats that fans will sit in watching film. So you can kind of feel the way that it's going to be difficult to contain this as long as fans are in the arena.
Great insight. Really appreciate it. Royce Young, our reporter, our Thunder reporter, live in Oklahoma City right now. Thank you so much. Tonight at 10:30 on ESPN and the ESPN app, Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans are in Sacramento to take on the Kings. Both teams are chasing the Grizzlies for the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. ESPN Pelicans reporter Andrew Lopez is with us in Sacramento as we speak. He joins us now. Andrew, you were at the team shoot-around this morning. What were they saying about the possibility of playing in empty arenas due to the coronavirus?
Well, Zion Williamson walked in, kind of looked around and figures, this is how it's going to be now because of the press conferences, and sat down and he said, it's not going to be fun, but he understands why they're doing it. Alvin Gentry tried to have a little bit of fun with it. He marked out 9 or 8 feet on his cell phone before getting up on the podium, but they also understand. Nobody really likes this situation. They understand that the fans are the lifeblood of what they do. Brandon Ingram talked about having to come up with his own energy now because there's not going to be any fans in the arena. So the Pelicans, they understand what's going on right now, but they're not necessarily happy about it.
That's Pelicans reporter Andrew Lopez in Sacramento. Thanks so much, Andrew. The coronavirus is affecting events all over the sports world. For more on that, here's Kevin Nagandi and Sage Steele.
Stephen A., we've been wondering for a few weeks now exactly how the spread of coronavirus would affect the sports world. But today, when the World Health Organization declared that the global coronavirus crisis is a pandemic, that word changed everything.
Yeah, and the biggest story of the day, the NCAA has made an unprecedented move. The men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments will be played without fans in attendance. NCAA President Mark Emmert said in a statement this afternoon that all championship events will take place with only essential staff and limited family in attendance. While the plan is to keep the first round sites as is, Emmert says they're looking to move the Final Four out of Mercedes-Benz Stadium into a smaller venue in Atlanta. Regional sites could also be moved to smaller venues but stay in the same city. Emmert putting out this statement that reads in part, quote, I have made the decision to conduct our upcoming championship events, including the Division I men's and women's basketball tournaments with only essential staff and limited family attendance. While I understand how disappointing this is for all fans of our sports, my decision is based on the current understanding of how COVID-19 is progressing in the United States.
And now, the Big Ten and Big 12 conference tournaments beginning tomorrow also will not have fans in attendance, just essential staff and immediate family. That is it. The Big Ten's announcement came just hours after it said it would allow fans. So much is changing literally by the minute. Also, the Warriors tomorrow night, they will take on the Nets in Chase Arena in San Francisco without fans. The first NBA team to do that, as so much has happened in the upper northwest part of this country. The Mariners, speaking of the Northwest, Seattle Mariners will move all home games out of Seattle through the end of March, and actually the beginning of April. It's the first 7 games of their season that will not be played at home as scheduled. For the record, the number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. has topped 1,000, with the number of deaths at 31.
This week's NBA Sunday Showcase on ABC and the ESPN app has James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets in Portland to take on Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers. Our coverage tips off with NBA Countdown at 3 p.m. Eastern.
One of the most anticipated matchups of the entire NBA regular season. James fouled, count it, and one. Leonard, Paul George goes to the lane and bats it home as Leonard goes inside and throws it down.
This is a playoff environment. I love the intensity.
Davis, a three-pointer. It's good. Drives, hop step in the paint to Davis for the slam. James drives, layup, count it, and the foul. LeBron James putting on the finishing touches.
It's yours. You deserve it, my friend.
Let me be very, very clear about something. Nobody's a fool here, all right? I know Kawhi Leonard is great. I know Kawhi Leonard is one of the top players on the planet. But I would tell you, when he won his first NBA Finals MVP as the San Antonio Spurs, and then his second NBA Finals MVP last year with the Toronto Raptors, he has never been under the spotlight nor the pressure that LeBron James has been under. And so for me, when I watch Kawhi Leonard with the Los Angeles Clippers, I got to tell you something. Now that you marched into L.A., proclaiming it's your town with a crown dangling from your mirror, putting the world on notice that you were coming for LeBron and the Lakers and everybody else, I got news for you. Let's apply some pressure to Kawhi Leonard and see how he responds. He's the cyborg, right? It's not going to faze him, but let's see whether or not he can handle it the way we asked LeBron James to. That's just my take. Coach Fizdale, back in the mix right now. I'm sorry, Matt Barnes. We got some technical difficulties with David Fizdale. We'll get back to him. What did you think about what I just said?
I like it. I don't think Kawhi came in thinking all that. I think he's strictly coming in to play basketball, win another championship. But LeBron, no one has faced the pressure LeBron has faced throughout his career, I think. It was a different generation. Obviously, Jordan didn't get that attention. Kobe caught the end of it. But LeBron, from the time he stepped on the basketball court, has had a tremendous amount of pressure on him.
See, I don't mind the pressure that has been applied to LeBron, but I think LeBron and his camp have a very, very valid argument when they highlight how the pressure that is applied to him consistently has helped provide cover for a whole bunch of other folks who want to be perceived as superstars in this game. How do you feel about that notion, and explain why you do?
I agree. I think he's been the scapegoat regardless of what happens. He's been to 8 finals, but he's only won this many. I mean, how many people have taken teams on their back to that many consecutive finals? What he's been able to do, to be able to win a championship in his hometown was huge. So, like I said, no one has been able to, has dealt with the amount of pressure that he has, and he's handled it greatly, but he's also taken a lot of pressure off other guys. But also, another thing I'd like to add, coming to LA is a lot more than just basketball. You know what I mean? And so to add that to his, pressure shield, but it's going to be different for Kawhi now because playoff times are coming around. Is he shakeable? Is he unflappable? We're going to see.
You and your smooth suit. Stay right there. I'll be back to you in a second. I might have to buy that suit in a second. Let me get to something else. The Rockets did break a 4-game losing streak by defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves, but their recent struggles have seen them fall to 6th in the Western Conference. Houston will now play 7 of its next 10 games on the road, starting with tomorrow night's matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers. Matt, let me get back to you, Matt Barnes, about the Houston Rockets. How have you felt about what you've seen from them since they went small ball? First 10 games or so, they looked absolutely phenomenal. Over the last 4 or 5 games, not so much. What's going on?
I came out the gates not necessarily believing in the situation because playing small ball, I know how much it takes out of you. And that team, you have to be balls to the wall every night on both ends of the floor, especially defense because you're so undermanned. So what they're going through right now is trying to catch their legs. And I think it's still undecided what they can do. I think Russell Westbrook is playing amazing. James Harden is kind of taking a little step back, but it's still yet to be seen what they can do coming towards playoffs.
I know I love Russell Westbrook. I know how you feel about somebody considering the assassin that he is, the most volatile competitor that exists in the NBA. We love that. Here's the flip side. He hasn't been out of the first round since Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City. He is getting paid $205+ million himself. We call him a superstar, but we consistently look at James Harden. How much should we be looking at Russell Westbrook when we think about the Houston Rockets and whatever success they aspire to achieve?
Well, the success or failure, he's going to, to me, have as much pressure as James now. Although it's James's team, we all know that Russell is that type of caliber player. He is another superstar, so now it's going to fall on both of them. So it's yet to be seen what they can do. Like I said, I love the way Russ has been playing. He's been attacking the paint. I want to say he's leading the league in points in the paint, playing tremendously. James is taking a little step back. So is that the recipe? Is that what's going on, or is it a bigger play? So I'm not really sure about Houston yet. I'm still unsold. Like I said, they came out the gates on fire. I think they proved everybody wrong, but now they're starting to hit a little lull. So can they come out of it?
You got to hang out with me a little bit more. You'll have more certainty in your voice. I'm telling you that right now. Anyway, let's check out tonight's three-point performance brought to you by Mountain Dew. With 17 three-pointers last night, the Mavericks became the first team to reach 1,000 this season. They also have a chance to make more history tonight. The Mavericks need 9 more threes to set their franchise record for a single season. In Dallas, Luka Doncic and the Mavs host the Nuggets next on ESPN. Luka only turned 21 years old on February 28th. Here's Maria Taylor on what Luka has accomplished in his young NBA career.
Every hero needs a steam. Was the youngest All-Star starter at just 19 years old. Magic Johnson had 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in a finals-clinching win when he was 20. Kevin Durant scored the second most total points by a player before his 21st birthday in league history. LeBron James had 8 40-point games before turning 21.
His ability to make plays not only for himself, for his teammates, just play for the pure love of the game. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
And now Luka, who joins the King as the only 2 players in league history to record 2,500 points, 500 rebounds, and 500 assists before turning 21.
Yeah, good luck to you too. I want to keep getting better. All right, keep going.
Luka reported 21 triple-doubles, 3 times as many as any other player before his 21st birthday, and 9 more than Magic and LeBron combined.
He'll shoot a deep 3. 42 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists for Doncic.
In 2 of those triple-doubles, he notched 40-plus points, something that had only been done once by a player 20 years or younger.
He is a special young man.
Would have to face Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and the Clippers in the first round. As for the Nuggets, they would face the small ball Houston Rockets. Matt Barnes, you're here with us still. We look at the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Everybody's been talking about them as the favorites. Who's the bigger threat to knock one of those teams off?
I don't feel like any of them are, to be honest with you. I feel like regardless, there's going to be a championship in LA this summer. I just don't know what team is going to be celebrating. But I think they're heads above the rest of the field in the West. Although the West is solid, there's a lot of teams that are going to play hard and make it an interesting playoffs, but I don't see anyone.
Well, what about the Denver Nuggets from the standpoint that not only did they win 54 games last year, you still got 2 young stars in the Joker and Jamal Murray. Oh, by the way, Bart can play, Gary Harris can play. You know, I like Millsap, a veteran on that squad. Jeremy Grant has been a welcomed addition to that squad. And guess what? They've been consistently a top 3 seed since the middle of December.
Regular season doesn't matter. Regular season doesn't matter. I think they've put on a good show the last few years. I've always thought they were too young. But to me, can you win with a big as your best player? in today's game. Before, that used to be the recipe to championships. In this new age of basketball, it's not. And he's their best player. I think their young stars are starting to develop, but have to be more consistent when it comes to playoff time. Obviously, Millsap, you love what he brings, but can your best player be a center in today's game?
Well, you do in Dallas. You do have an all-star who's very, very young, and Doncic just averaging over 28 a game. And by the way, they got some 7'3" dude that used to play for the New York Knicks, and Kristaps Porzingis that's been balling as of late. So what kind of threat could Dallas be?
I think Dallas is still a piece away, but I love what they're doing. I think we still need to give Porzingis more time to recover. I think he's showing flashes, but Luka is a transitional talent. Arguably one of the most skilled players coming into the NBA we've ever seen. What he's been able to accomplish over his short career has been tremendous so far, but I really feel like they're still one piece away from really being a threat in the West.
Appreciate the smooth and eloquent presentation, Matt Boss. But you know what time it is. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your seats. You know what's coming up next. Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. It's about that time, y'all. You know I've been waiting for this. Let's get to number one on my list, okay? Derrick Rose for the Detroit Pistons. Look at him dancing right here. Oh, look. You see that, Matt? Come on, Matt. You didn't even do that. Look at that spin move and the little jump shot. The little jump shot right there in the lane, Derrick Rose. He still got it. He still got it. I don't know about his hairdo, but he is game. He still has it. That's Derrick Rose right there. The brother can still ball. I love that move. Derrick Rose, former league MVP, still showing he has it after all these years. Let's go to number 2 on the list. Give it to me. Zion Williamson. Look at him. Drive into the lane and dunks with his right hand. Oh, that's an all-star moment right there. Look at him getting the crowd to his feet. But LeBron James right here has an answer. Damn near from half court. Pulls up. Nothing but net. Zion dunks, but LeBron James at 35 years of age, 17th season in the league, still showing there are many ways to skin a cat, and that's exactly what he did to Zion right there. And beating him, by the way, before giving him a hug and sending him home. Let's go to number 3 on the list. Josh Jackson, I'm sorry, but embarrassing moments, this is what comes with it. What on earth was he doing? Oh, no, you didn't. Try to dunk in the open court and just flop like that. Look at that. That's just bad. Josh Jackson, oh, no, you didn't. Try to be so.
Little hands. You got to grip that. You got little hands.
Yeah. You ain't that skilled yet. Come on now. Oh, no, you didn't. I tell you this much. Lonnie Walker didn't have that problem. Look at this guy. Oh, no, you didn't. Dunk on them like that. Oh, no, you didn't, Lonnie Walker. Way to go. I don't know about his hairdo either. Him and Derrick Rose. Look at this right here.
You might look good with that hairdo.
That who?
You.
Me?
Ooh, can you imagine
Never
that?
happens. Never happened. Not me. Oh, no, you didn't, Lonnie Walker. What a dunk. What a dunk. By the way, breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski right now. He tweets, new story filed to ESPN. The NBA's Board of Governors shared a consensus on Wednesday to continue the season playing games without fans in arenas amid the coronavirus crisis. And Commissioner Adam Silver is expected to move in that direction with a decision on Thursday. More SportsCenter after this. SportsCenter tonight after Pelicans Kings with the one and only Scott Van Pelt. He'll be joined by Tim Legler to break down Luka and Zion's nights. Plus, how good can Jalen Hurts be in the National Football League? SportsCenter on ESPN and the ESPN app. Adrian Wojnarowski, just minutes ago, sent out this tweet. The NBA's Board of Governors shared a consensus on Wednesday to continue the season playing games without fans in arenas amid the coronavirus. And Commissioner Adam Silver is expected to move in that direction with a decision on Thursday. Let me say this. I agree with the commissioner's decision. I agree with the league's decision. It's the right thing to do. Always err on the side of caution, particularly when it comes to the health of all human beings, particularly the fans and the players. Obviously, this is a sensitive situation. It's very, very tough. But the players playing in an audience without fans, we'll see.
Today's opening tip, Gronk inks a deal with WWE. He's scheduled to make a cameo at WrestleMania 36 in April, but got us thinking, which NBA player would you most want to see as a pro wrestler now that Gronk has crossed the Rubicon here?
Two real easy answers. One is Draymond Green because he's got the build and because he talks a lot of trash. Another is Robin Lopez because he's been doing it all year long, right? With the Milwaukee Bucks. They do little pregame thing.
Ennis Cantor's already gone in the ring.
I'm going Ennis Cantor and Steven Adams. I want them to be a
Steven
tag team.
Adams might be the sneaky best pick of everyone.
He's gonna be like Undertaker, right?
Giannis is into it too, though. I don't know. I mean, not right now with the knee injury, but still. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside our front office insider, Amin Al-Hassan, former NBA head coach David Fizdale. Coming up, is it safe to say James Harden is back on track after putting up 37 to snap the Rockets' 4-game losing streak? We will discuss that. First, though, we got some breaking news for you related to coronavirus. The city of San Francisco has followed the lead of neighboring Santa Clara County and banned all gatherings of 1,000 people or more for 2 weeks. That ban will include Warriors games, which means, yes, the other shoe we have all been waiting to drop has hit the floor. The Warriors plan to play tomorrow night's game against the Nets without fans. In a statement, the Warriors said, quote, "We will continue to monitor this evolving situation closely to determine next steps for future games and events. We appreciate the understanding and patience of all of our fans, guests, and partners during this unprecedented time." Now, the Washington, D.C.'s health department has also recommended that events featuring crowds of 1,000 or more be postponed or canceled. The Wizards have 4 home games scheduled through next Friday, including this Friday against the Celtics, so we're keeping track of that. But this may soon be taken out of individual teams' hands. The league's Board of Governors is scheduled to hold a conference call about 90 minutes from now, in which it will discuss how to proceed as the impact of this virus grows. League sources told our Adrian Wojnarowski last night that scenarios include all the way up to moving games to cities that don't have reported cases of the virus, which could include non-NBA cities. We could also see more or all teams hold games without fans. The director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, told a congressional committee today he would recommend the NBA not allow fans at any games. There's, of course, also the more drastic step available of suspending game operations for a period of time. All of these decisions would, of course, heavily affect league revenue, especially if games without fans extend into the playoffs. But the NBA has said the health of its players and fans will be its driving and primary concern. So, Coach, how would you feel or really approach if you are Steve Kerr tomorrow playing a game without fans and getting your players mentally ready for that?
I think you still got to approach it as an important game for your team to get better. I mean, I think that's the bottom line, especially for Steve. He's got a young crew of guys. He's just trying to develop guys. You prepare them like it's any other game. It will be weird because I remember even in high school days when our fans didn't get along and they would brawl over in the neighborhood over here, we would start playing games with no crowd. And it's really weird to not have fans in the crowd, but I think it is.
You grew up in Inglewood, not that far from our studio here,
That's right? Yep.
And they would clear the fans out sometimes?
South Central.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because if you say Inglewood, then I'm going to get in trouble in the
Oh, I'm sorry. That goes into the Paul Pierce High School versus the York High School and the whole. I'm sorry. Okay.
Start trouble.
Right, but they would play. So you played some
games without a crowd.
Okay.
And not tell the crowd where the site was or where you were playing at, so they couldn't follow the school bus and all of that kind of stuff. But this is a whole nother deal. You're talking about people's health that's involved in player health. And so I think the coaches got to go about it the same way, prepare their teams to try to win a game, and we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is I was having this conversation yesterday at the Laker game with Eric Pincus from Bleacher Report, who's a big cap guy. And we're talking about if this becomes the norm across the league, what are the potential cap ramifications? Because you're talking about loss of revenue of gate, loss of revenue of concessions, parking, all that stuff. That could equal almost if we go from here to the end of the playoffs with no fans in the crowd, but we play the games, we're talking about maybe a $20 million drop in the salary cap next year, which means a drop in the luxury tax, which means every team might be in the tax a year from now. And so how does the league respond to that? Because obviously when you're planning 2-3 years ago, no one would expect this kind of scenario to happen. And so those are kind of the ripple effects, the unintended consequences of this. But obviously, like Coach said, health is number one. I mean, we're talking about people's lives here.
This is real.
And most importantly, when local governments say, No.
Yep.
You can't just thumb your nose. You have to go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think that if this got to a point where we went months without the revenue from the fans and all that stuff you're talking about, they might make some exceptions on luxury tax, repeat violators, or things like that. That's all something that can get worked out over the summer once we get a handle on what this is. I think the hardest thing right now is for players to sort of get a handle on how to approach all this stuff. Because to your point, for the Warriors, they're not in the playoff hunt. They've been eliminated. You know, every game is just a chance to get better. But you have teams in pretty serious playoff races and races for seeding, and they're going to have that energy that they need. And you've heard players around the league over the last couple days push back, not because they don't want players or fans or anyone to have those health concerns met, but just it's the idea of playing without fans just feels so uncomfortable to them. It's going to be a big thing to get used to because it's happening.
Huge adjustment they're going to have to make.
Summer League 2008. Thomas and Mack, big arena, nobody there.
The last 2 games of Summer League.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's gone.
The tail end when everyone's gone.
Absolutely. We will, of course, continue to monitor the situation throughout the show, but I want to get back to basketball just for right now. All right, guys, if you took a time machine back to 2007, you'd see the Spurs sweeping the Cavaliers for the NBA title. That was the height of the Big Three era and also LeBron James' first NBA Finals. He was just 22 years old, and after it was all over, we got this nice moment of LeBron and Tim Duncan running into each other in a hallway.
Great job, man. I love how you're on 15 minutes. Stay that way, man. Stay that way. And to drive these guys, this is going to be your league in a little while. But I appreciate you giving us this year.
This is going to be your league in a little while, but I appreciate you giving us this one. Duncan and LeBron had cameras following them everywhere back then. Not shockingly, there was no camera following around Jacques Vaughn. I don't know. Vaughn had hardly been a point of conversation. He was a journeyman on the Spurs bench who played about 10 minutes a game in those 2007 finals, averaging exactly 2 points per game. Fast forward then 13 years to last night when Vaughn was again on the same court as LeBron, this time as the interim coach of the Nets. Vaughn got the gig after the team abruptly parted ways with Kenny Atkinson a few days ago. And while Vaughn has been a head coach before, a short, if unexceptional, stint with the Magic, his name has again been notably absent from the conversation. Actually, many news stories skipped over him entirely when they reported Atkinson's departure, jumping right into speculation over whether guys like Ty Lue or Mark Jackson might get the job eventually. But whether he is being talked about or not, for at least 20 games, Jacques Vaughn is the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And so far, he is making the most of the opportunity. On Sunday, the Nets beat Chicago, and last night, the Nets, after that, held off a scorching Lakers team that had just dispatched the Bucks and Clippers. Maybe a letdown game was inevitable for LA, and indeed the Lakers looked disinterested in parts of the third quarter, but they certainly rallied toward the end. This three from Anthony Davis, this tied the game with just 43 seconds left. Look at that pose.
Hold it.
Let them all see. Yeah. Then it was Spencer Dinwiddie's turn, nice 18-footer, to give the Nets the lead. Right? Talk that talk. He's from around here, too.
It's always a foul.
LeBron to the hoop.
Oh,
no, that roll was savage, guys. Look at this.
That was a big, big miss right there.
Woo! And then finally, we got a LeBron kicking out to Anthony Davis, who had that clean three that didn't go, sealing the game for Brooklyn. Got to give the Nets bench some credit, by the way, on the AD miss. Look at Kevin Durant. He did the whole playground yell thing at Davis as he shoots. It worked. After the game, most of the conversation was, again, not about Vaughn or even the Nets. It was more about the Lakers missing a chance to gain a game on the Bucks in the standings. But whether it's loud or quiet, Vaughn is now 2-0 as interim coach. And he's clearly working to communicate with players in a way Atkinson reportedly did not toward the end of his tenure. He's elevated DeAndre Jordan to the starting lineup, which has made KD and Kyrie happy. He's talking about adding new defensive sets if he does well. If the Nets make a decent stretch run and rep themselves honorably in the playoffs, will Vaughn have a real starting shot at the job permanently? Probably not, actually. That's just not how the NBA works in high-profile situations on teams with big stars. Guys like Vaughn are rarely part of that conversation, but that doesn't mean they're not there, making their mark decade after decade. So, Fizz, you know Jacques Vaughn.
Very well.
What can he do? Can he do anything to earn this Nets job long-term?
Yeah, win games. I think it's just continuing to really build strong relationships with those main guys, with those stars. But I'm going to tell you something about Jacques Vaughn. Since I was a little kid, we've been together playing basketball. And Jacques Vaughn is one of the greatest basketball minds I've ever been around.
Wow.
From when he was a young kid here in L.A., you can ask anybody in L.A. about his IQ. When he went to Kansas, he was one of the smartest basketball guards we've ever seen. And then at a certain point in the NBA, the super talent always ends up taking over.
Sure.
But from a thinking the game standpoint, teaching the game standpoint, guys respecting him and what he brings to the table, I'm hoping that he gets a real shot at this.
Yeah, you know, the reality is two of the biggest voices in who's going to be the next coach, they're not playing, and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
Right.
And so regardless of what he does with this team, the two probably most influential people he needs to win over aren't experiencing, or they're experiencing it from the bench in street clothes or at home if you're Kyrie recovering and rehabbing. And so that is going to work against them, but that doesn't mean what he does here is meaningless or doesn't have value, because as we know, this is a great proving ground to show other teams that are going to have openings, hey, I'm a pretty good coach. I can take a playoff team and make them, you know, play well and have them in that hunt, basically, to the postseason. And so, and especially when you talk about a guy like Jacques Vaughn, a young black coach in this league, guys who don't normally get multiple chances at being a head coach. He got one chance in Orlando. It didn't work out. And when was the last time you heard him as a candidate for any head coaching job?
Not enough. Not
Not at all.
Not
You
at all.
haven't heard him at all. So this is kind of a blessing in disguise for him, regardless of whether it ends up being the Nets head coach or not. He's able to showcase himself. He shouldn't have to, but he's able to showcase himself to other teams. Say, look, I'm still a good coach in this league, a candidate for your job. It's not just the kind of the new sexy names they bring up every year.
I mean, and the reality is Kenny Atkinson didn't really have those two guys either. Kyrie Irving's missed 44 games this year, and he never really got to build or experience what it would be like having those guys, and he still had his team in the 7th seed. So that's why I'm still kind of cloudy about the whole firing, because I think Kenny is one of the brightest young coaches in the league.
Coaches stick up for coaches no matter what, all the time, no matter what.
That's
it has
right.
been 9 months, by the way, guys, since KD tore his Achilles Game 5 of the NBA Finals. And yesterday, we not only saw KD yelling at Anthony Davis from the bench, we actually got some footage of him working out and throwing down a pretty impressive dunk. This, I think, was on his brother's Instagram.
This is on Tony's Instagram.
Kevin, 31 years old, right? So I want to kind of take a look at notable stars who came back after Achilles ruptures. There's the list. And then, you know, what's a little tricky is DeMarcus Cousins, right? He's up there. He comes back.
Right.
He has another injury that's, you know, in the leg. You know, you don't know how related it is,
and then
right?
An ACL.
And then an ACL. So that's all bottom half injuries that you wonder if the Achilles is weaker. Is that just creating these rolling injuries? I'm not a doctor, but
I love that segment.
what do you sort of think about KD as you see him make that dunk and your expectations for him coming off this injury?
I'll never forget the day he ruptured his Achilles. I said the one thing that I think works in his favor is that he ruptured his right Achilles. As a predominantly right-handed player, he's going to push off and explode off his left leg.
Yeah.
So if you watch it, we can run that clip again. Well, not that clip, but the clip of him working out there on that dunk. You see his explosion and push off and is from the left leg. But right here, that crossover right to left. See how ginger it was? Because he's planning on his right leg. He's favoring it. So it's a little one. But then right there, that's the explosion. That's the KD we know. Because that left leg is healthy. So most of the stuff that he likes doing, he's going to be able to do because that's off the uninjured leg. The question is, as he favors that injured leg, that's when we talk about DeMarcus Cousins, all those other people do. Other injuries occur.
Overcompensating on the other leg. But I think overall, the way he plays the game and as his game continues to evolve, he's a 7-foot shooter. And so ultimately, he's still going to shoot over the top of you, and he's still going to have a huge impact on games. Where I think the graph we probably should be showing is all of those people that we put up there, what happened after the injury? What did they do in the league after the injury, and did they really produce?
It's gotten better, right? So obviously as medical technology has advanced, it's gotten better. So the guys who had those injuries later have done more. It does tend to take some years off a guy's prime, right? Kevin was 30 years old at the time of the injury. What you're talking about, being a little bit more ginger on one side, not having the full range of his game, standing around and being a spot-up shooter in some positions, that's what we think about when guys age. Right?
Absolutely.
When we think about the greats age, maybe, so at 31, maybe he will be playing like he would have been playing at 33. I don't...
Exactly.
Really quick, Elton Brand, DeMarcus Cousins, heavy guys. Dominique
Yes.
Wilkins, one of the big
Muscle guy.
is a muscle guy. Rudy Gay, who we didn't even have on there,
Yes,
has come back pretty good.
completely clean.
Yeah.
Coming up, we'll talk about James Harden. Is he back on track after last night's win over the Wolves? Coach Fizz is going to break down some tape for us next.
Hey.
First, though, it's time for our distant replay from this date in 1999. We had black chocolate. I mean, we had chocolate thunder, and now we got white chocolate. It's all over the
Y'all
place right
mixed
now.
up.
All right. Oh. This is the old
Jay Will.
This is at the sports arena.
Right?
There was a leak probably. Yeah.
Make, miss. It's a make or miss league.
Make showtime. LeBron diving for the loose ball.
Yeah. The crowd
Starts
loved
the
it.
fast break. Right?
The crowd went nuts for this play.
So is this little Showtime Lakers feel to it, the way this all went?
Slow down.
I think, hey, look, that team's got that feel because they got a big playmaker
Yeah.
and they got a big man that's versatile. So they do have a little bit of that feel, but I'm not giving them.
I'm less talking. By the way, I'm less
Just
talking
the
about the
feel.
players on the court. You interrupted me to say how much the crowd liked it. That is what I'm talking about. Showtime. Show is the show. Do you feel like the show is back?
That was gritty. Showtime had a little bit more
a little more
pizzazz.
pizzazz.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you something. Showtime was ready to throw blows with you
That
back
too.
in the day, so it
That
wasn't
too.
all pretty now.
But they made
There
it
you
look
go.
pretty.
But we've
They made it
seen,
look pretty.
I feel like we've had a couple times over the last 20 years where people are like, Showtime's back, and it hasn't really happened. And now we do have the celebs in the crowd. And
Absolutely.
Missed out. Bradley Beal, extremely confident in the Latvian laser shot. He is confident.
I'll tell
Should he
you.
be, Fizz?
Yeah, that kid's a big-time shooter, and he gets his shot off against anybody. I know why he's that confident in him.
Look, I'm confident that the shot's going up. That dude, let me tell you something.
Hey.
On his scouting report, only when he touches it.
Right.
But that shot's going
What
up.
Gretzky say, you miss 100% of the
ones you don't take. We have,
He took it to
we
heart.
have- hey, I can't believe y'all are starting to roll this clip. That's just mean.
Oh.
That's just mean,
Kevin's
producer
doing
Danny.
better.
Shimmy.
He's doing better now.
Come on.
This
is amazing.
Kevin's back to the big time, man.
No, you know, he's a team player. Make science.
Oh, man.
Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson roasting the New York Knicks by pointing out that 13 periodic table of elements have been discovered in the time since they last won a title in 1973. Amine,
John Stewart.
how sodium chloride, aka salty, should the Knicks be about this fact?
No.
I'm salty because I'm a part of that. So now I got this guy talking crap too.
Yep. Look at that.
No. Now,
How
no
many?
with that pun.
How many?
13.
13.
How many since I've been out of school? That's what I want to know.
Well, since you're only 26, then it'll be just fine. No, I mean it's like when we do on this date and we since then the price of a movie was 5 cents a ticket.
He
And,
went science with it.
all of that stuff. He did the same thing, and it's
Well, the game's
it's
even
been a while. Miss defense.
Yo,
Josh Jackson.
this play.
Okay, he had a nice play last night against the Magic.
Okay.
Desperation foul, Aaron Gordon. So I'm supposed to be. Are we experiencing the Josh Jackson renaissance? Would imply we had some great Josh Jackson moment in the NBA.
That was a great moment.
That was
Now, meaning the renaissance, meaning coming back.
I think so. I think that's why they felt comfortable trading Jay Crowder, and that's this kid right now. His talent level is really coming through.
I'm an idiot. I just got what Rachel said.
Thank you.
This is his naissance, not his renaissance.
One,
Completely.
2, 3,
I didn't go to Northwestern.
4. It's okay. I can mix up all the thunders, so we're good. Make motor. Russell Westbrook in the open court. Crossing up D'Lo. Watch this. You get a pretty vicious dunk at the end.
Hold on.
Come on.
No, run it back. Yeah, we gotta see.
D-Lo.
Let's see Russell one more time.
Show the defense.
Yeah, it was a great dunk, but hold on. Yeah. Oh, no, come on. Y'all have to show it.
That was bullfighter all the way.
Oh,
Matador.
Here we go. Look at this. Yeah.
You know, my school mascot was called a Torero.
The Torero.
Oh, that's right.
That was a Torero.
Don't
D
we call
right
that
there.
a business decision, or you're not supposed to be making them that far from the hoop?
25 feet for the basket. Come on, man.
Come on.
There's business all over the court. I mean,
He's a Hey, man, he getting to the rim. What am I supposed to do?
From that game, I want to focus in on the league's leading scorer for a bit. Last night, the Rockets snapped their 4-game losing streak behind a 37-point performance by James Harden. With the win, Houston swept the 4-game regular season series with Minnesota.
This is great defense, by the way. How open is he on this?
Looking at Harden's play before Clint Capella was hurt and then subsequently traded, you will notice there has been an uptick, guys, in isolations per game, but a slight dip in his scoring average. So, Coach, I wanted you to break this down for us because James Harden has really had a roller coaster season. There was a point where Tracy McGrady was betting Zach Lowe on our show that he would average more than 40 a game. Then he's turning in games with points in the tens and teens.
Yeah.
And even after the Capella trade, we've seen this. So what is happening?
I think there's an adjustment period because they made such a drastic move. I mean, they really, what do they call it, micro ball now? But what's happening right now is this. With Capella, one of the best in the league at getting you to go over the top of screens, he gave you vertical spacing. So it always gave James Harden that bailout to throw something up to get Capella an easy basket. Same thing here. He's got the so-called mismatch against Harrell there, and he goes by him, and now in the dunker spot down there, you got a vertical spacer that you could throw lobs to, and that's really changed the way he's had to attack. Rollers really hurt switches, and so with Capella being one of the best rollers in the league, that took an element of James Harden's game away from him. But now you look at
This
it
is him without
Capella. When teams switch, everyone's standing on the perimeter now. You don't have anyone collapsing the defense on the roll. He ends up settling for more ISOs, more contested threes, and he doesn't break down the defense as much. Again, same play here. He attacks the gap. You don't have Capella on that weak side block over there for a lob. The defense can really help because now you got multiple guys on the perimeter that can scramble around and rotate to shooters. So I think that's the adjustment that they have to figure out with him. Last night, I thought they did a great job of him making quick decisions and other guys making plays for him to get open shots. And so I think that might be the tweak.
Yo, shout out to once a video coordinator, always a video coordinator. Came back and y'all didn't even put the graphic up. But Coach is absolutely right. What ends up happening as a defensive player who's sagging to help, you're in this constant, if I commit, he's throwing that lob.
Absolutely.
But if I don't commit, then I'm backing up and he's getting right to where he wants to. So they took away that threat. And like Coach said, that skip pass to the weak side, I have a better chance of closing out to that than I do to a lob to a big who's going to dunk it. But here's the reality. Since the trade, Russell Westbrook has been a lot more assertive. The ball's in his hands a lot more, and it better suits him now than it does Harden. And so Harden's got to adjust somewhat to that. You know, that's part of it is he's trying to figure out where I can fit in now that Russ is a bigger part of this offense, and now that this offense is more geared towards Russ than it is to Harden. It's not that it's not geared to Harden. It's just this helps Russ a lot more. And the reality is, he's struggled, as you said, he's been up and down. Last night was a big game and a big win they needed to break a losing streak, but this was a team they dominated. And last night wasn't an easy win. They had to fight and claw for that one. So I got to see a little bit more from Harden. I got to see more of those types of games. And like Coach said, he's got to figure out now the new math. Now that the defenses are adjusting to the lack of a vertical spacer, where are we going to go with it?
Well, I don't think we had seen in the NBA an offense geared around one guy as much as the Rockets have been geared around James Harden, right?
No doubt.
So by definition, if you were going to make a change, and when Coach, you put up the video of those defenders moving out, the nice thing of those defenders moving out is that's all that room, right, for Russell Westbrook to come barrel on in there, do what he does best. And you're activating Russ in a way where for the first chunk of the season, you really didn't have the MVP level Russell Westbrook because he was out on the perimeter like all of James's teammates trying to chuck up threes, and we know what happens when that happens with Russ. So the fact that they've opened up that room for him, it activates Russ, and the exponential value you get from that, I think overall as a team, if you're the Rockets, you'll take a little value off of Harden if you can get the full value of Russ. The thing is, this is a league where we look at guys' stats and we harp on guys and we say, oh, look, he's struggling, he's failing. To me, this is more of just the natural outgrowth of making this kind of change, having a more balanced team, which is what people have been yelling for the Rockets to do for years, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm interested to see how much adjusting he makes versus this is just how they are now. Maybe it's a path to win. I don't know.
That space is going to help Russell make more plays for him.
Yes.
I think when you're a great scorer, the more open shots, the more easy shots you can get, the bigger that basket gets, and then he can put up his big numbers.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the Celtics. They have been a little dicey in late game situations. We have a former coach and a former video coordinator. There you are.
Two video guys.
Here to explain. Keep it locked on the jump. And the Warriors versus Giannis and the Bucks. Coverage tips with the jump. We are your pregame show, 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Steph Curry is indeed expected to return to the Warriors lineup this Thursday against the Nets. He was out with the flu last night against the Clippers, also earlier in the week. But we learned earlier today that Nets-Warriors will be played without any fans in attendance due to coronavirus fears. Giannis, meanwhile, spoke today. He asked if he was nervous waiting for the results from his MRI after he took that hard fall this past Saturday. He said with a smile, quote, "Yes, I pooped my pants."
He said poop?
Well, maybe not, but it's national television, and I can't bleep myself as I'm talking. So there you go. Our reporter, Tim Bontemps, told our producer, Hillary, that he was smiling and laughing when he made that joke. I assume it was a joke, but that also he looked a little nervous. So, you know, I get it, right? This is an injury right down the stretch of the playoffs. Right down the stretch as we get toward the playoffs. We'll see how many games he ends up being out. I'm Rachel. I'm back with Amin and Coach Fizz in the house. And I want to talk Boston because the Celtics blew another fourth quarter lead last night. The Pacers went on a 21-2 run, 7 minutes left in the game. Now, Boston did hang on to win this one, right? So that was a bright spot for Boston fans. But we have seen the Celtics throw away late leads against the Nets and Thunder as well. So, Amin, again, home stretch as we head toward the playoffs, and they are going to have a tough path if they want to make the Eastern Conference Finals. What is going on? Why are they struggling?
Yeah, I just think every team goes through this. Every team goes through these games where you have a problem closing out because of one thing or another. A ball bounces wrong. Like last night was different. It wasn't late game. It was earlier in the game when they blew a big lead. So that's a different conversation. But I think back to Sunday's game against Oklahoma City, and that's just bad luck. There's bad luck sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's a lack of focus, especially when you're this deep in the year. To me personally, I don't know about you, Coach, I'm not worried about this team.
No.
Because Kemba Walker is one of the most clutch players we have in this league. Jason Tatum looks like he's growing to be one of the clutch players that we have.
He is.
You've got Marcus Smart as a smart, savvy defender. I know we saw the foul he made against Brooklyn against Karis LeVert right there. Not particularly a smart play, but,
he
knows
of
better.
course. No,
he knows
he's
better.
the heartbeat of that team.
And Brad Stevens is a very well-prepared coach. So I think this is just the ups and downs of a year.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is they're a different team than last year. You know, last year they were 5th in assists. This year they're 25th in assists. And so what happens in some of these comebacks, I'm watching their games, they get caught holding the ball a lot. And when you're standing around, you end up taking tougher shots. Teams get out on the break. They score faster, and that eats up leads. And so I think they got to get back to just trusting each other in those situations, being willing to make easy plays for each other because they got so much talent out there on the floor, offensive talent. They can't get in this game of taking turns. They got to try to help the next guy get open shots, and that'll help their transition defense.
I didn't notice those assist numbers. That's fascinating and interesting, too, because we've seen guys come back from injury on the Celtics team. And one thing we heard last year, right, in addition to all the noise inside the locker room, was just on the floor. It was hard to sort of know who was taking the lead, who was doing what. Jason Tatum obviously really taking some great steps in the middle of this season, but Kemba back and all the stuff, it might be a little bit trying to figure out who does what when.
Absolutely,
right?
but I think ultimately Tatum is going to be their go-to guy down the stretch just because, and Kemba can go get a shot, don't get me wrong, but when you got a 6'8" guy that could go get a shot over the top of somebody, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you if it wasn't for him hitting a buzzer beater over the top of R.J. Barrett. But guys like that, those are the guys you put the ball in their hands late in games and they can go end it for you.
Well, I feel bad for R.J. Barrett, but I'm happy for me that I get you. Coming up, we're going to play the stat market. LeBron averaging a career high in total points created this season. Should we buy or sell him keeping up this pace in the postseason? First, though, I want you all to head over to ESPN Plus. Wednesday's best NBA bets. Now, we're not condoning gambling in this establishment here on The Jump, but we're not condoning gambling either. We'll be right back.
Shout out Doug Kazarian.
Put your dice up a minute.
Hey,
Zion's upcoming statement games, and Dan Orlovsky assesses Jalen Hurts' draft stock after his NFL Pro Day today. SportsCenter with Sage Steele and me right after PTI.
That is the stat market opening bell. We give you the stats, and you buy if you think these stats will remain or increase, sell if you think they'll decrease. All right, so you got the ground rules. Let's start with LeBron James, who is creating for teammates at the best pace of his career. In fact, his points created, which combines points scored and assisted on, is at a career high 50.6 points a game. So, Amin, he's going to stay the point guard of the Lakers. Do you buy or sell?
Buy 50,000 shares, buy. Here's the deal. You got LeBron James, first of all, this is the second fastest pace of his career. So there's a lot more opportunities for him to score and create for the others. Second of all, you got Anthony Davis. He's the best compliment he's ever had. Buy on this.
I'm right here. I'm right
number
here.
one, no, we got to yell because we're on the stock market floor. And then also, most importantly, they run that pick and roll to death. It is the most unstoppable play right now in the NBA.
Yes.
And they do it a lot, and they got a lot of opportunities to do it. I'm buying all the way.
You're doing your pad. You got it.
All-time high in touches, so
Yes.
the ball staying in his hands,
Yep.
right? Playing that point guard, he becomes one of the most dominant forces in the league. They surround him with shooting. They surround him with vertical spacing. He's just going to stay on this track. I don't know if he could stay at 50, but he's going to stay up high right there all the way through, and especially with trying to catch the Bucks and trying to win these games down the stretch, he's going to play at a high level.
Watching him do this, I know you guys did the positionless basketball with the Heat. You sort of pushed him into spaces of less comfort for him. Should you have done this? Should you have gone so far to start him as point guard?
I mean, maybe. But at the time, how our roster worked out, it really helped us to have like another ball handler like Chalmers or somebody like that, and Norris Cole on the floor. So when that ball started moving, we had another guy that can go attack. But what Frank has done with him and the positions he's put him in has been fantastic, and that's why he's an MVP candidate.
There you go. All right, next up, we have the Pelicans, who happen to play on ESPN tonight. Look at that. Their five-man lineup of Drew Holiday, Derek Favors, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Zion Williamson. This is insane. Plus 26 points per 100 possessions. That's the best of any lineup with at least 200 minutes played. For reference, 7 points better than Milwaukee's best lineup, and we know the insane clip they've been winning at. So, Coach, do you buy or sell the dominance of this five-man lineup?
I'm buying. I said this when he first came back. Those three guys, those perimeter players, are all point guards in their own way. So the pace that they play at, Zion brings the ball up. They play at a breakneck pace together. They got two guards that pressure the ball and get steals. Ingram's a long deflections guy, and those two bigs clean up all of the rebounds. So you're usually only getting one shot, if any, against that group. And so, yes, I am buying. I think they are dynamic. I think they're fast. I wouldn't want to face them.
Oh, we got a buyer? I'm selling to you, Coach. 20,000 shares. Here's the deal. I love this lineup. It is excellent defensively. I think that is sustainable. Right. Offensively, though, I have questions because Derek Favors.
I'm right
No,
here.
we're on the floor. I gotta yell this stuff out. Favors. And Zion, not spacers. Lonzo Ball shooting 38% from three this year. Shout out to Fred Vincent for helping them with that. But still, reputationally, not a spacer. I don't know if they can keep scoring at this pace to keep up that kind of spread. But defensively, it's great. Coach, I'm selling you 20,000 shares.
See, that's why I got to buy them because, again, that's a defensive unit that runs.
Yep.
So they're not dependent as much on half-court spacing and things like that. That's one of those teams for a stretch of the game that can just blow a game open because of the pace.
And they're forcing turnovers, which feeds right back into the transition game and what you're exactly talking about. All right, I want to get on to Trae Young. Very polarizing player. Young, undoubtedly one of the top offensive players in the league, ranking 5th in ESPN's offensive real plus minus. However, he ranks not third to last, not second to last, but yes, last among 502 players in defensive real plus minus. So, Amin, do you buy or sell this rank? Do you think that this is a true reflection of where Trae Young is?
I wish I watched Mad Money or whatever that show is on CNBC. Like, this is a hot buy. Look, here's the deal. Trae Young coming out in the draft. This is what we were worried about. Between him and Luka Doncic, we both worried about their defense, but one guy's 6'8", and the other guy's my height. And that's a big issue in the NBA. Then on top of that, he's playing on a bad team. And when you play on a bad team, the first thing to slip is defensive intensity. We don't care. We want to get our points. We want to get our assists.
There's no one helping him.
Well, you know, there's only so much you can help.
Yeah.
And everyone else on the team has to want to help too.
Don't pretend that we've had high offensive players who have been helped by a strong defense around them, making up for their lack of.
Yes, but not bad teams at the end of the season. Well, they never play defense at that point.
Defensively, they're the blind leading the blind, though. So it's not like he's got, like, veteran guys protecting
tell us how you really feel.
No, it's the truth. They're a young team. They don't know, you know, they haven't established the habits that you need to build to protect a Trae Young. You know what I mean? You need to have guys behind him that really
That's
cover
what
up
I
his
mean,
warts.
yes.
But I do think over the course of his career, if he starts to understand how to use his speed to pressure, if he really starts to study the opponent and understand what they're trying to run, how he can disrupt them, he can be an impactful player.
100,000 shares, by the way. I didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
I need to buy 100,000 of those.
Who was it who said 2 years ago when he signed his contract with the Bulls, defense doesn't matter in the NBA anymore?
Jabari Parker.
There you go.
There it is.
And we see how that worked out.
Did he play on the
Lastly, there's Mitchell Robinson, who's giving Knicks fans a glimmer of hope these days.
My man.
Robinson shooting 73.7% from the field this season, on pace to be the best in NBA history. Yes, higher than peak DeAndre Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. So, Fizz, you're a guy, you coached him.
Love him.
Do you buy or sell him setting the field goal percentage record?
I'm buying all your shares.
No.
I think he could. I absolutely think he can pull this off. He knows who he is. He stays in his wheelhouse. He's a lob guy. He's an offensive rebounder, and he's a lead in those areas. So finishing around the rim and doing things around the basket, and he's really crafty with some of his other finishes. I really believe that he can finish out the season at that percentage.
Coach bought all the shares, so there are none left. I wanted to buy some as well.
I'm buying all those shares. That's my guy.
But here's the reality. As Coach said, he plays in he knows his role, but also he doesn't play a whole lot of minutes. It's not like a guy playing 38, 39 minutes who has a lot of opportunities to start to get out of his kind of wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So within that, there's a nice comfort around where he does and where he operates, and he knows his game. And as we see in all these highlights, almost everything is a dunk. I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, and he's one of the best running bigs in the league. He's so fast.
Easy target.
End to end that he's going to get easy baskets.
Yeah, that is the sound of the closing bell. That means the stat market is closed for the day. We will be back with another edition soon. Stick around, though, because coming up, we got the Nuggets and Mavs on ESPN tonight. Who do these guys think the better team is? Is it the team with Luka? Maybe not the team with Luka. Find out. First, though, time for our second distant replay of the day.